This week on the nonprofit news feed, my name is George Weiner, the chief whaler of Whole Whale, and I have Nick Azulay, now the senior manager, digital strategy at Whole Whale. Nick, I got in trouble with my mom last week because I didn't say your last name. This time I'm making sure I give it its full due. Nick, congratulations. You've been with us since 2020, and it has been fun doing the podcast with you.
Yeah, it's been great. We've been doing the podcast almost that whole time too, which is hard to believe. Thank you, George. It's quite an honor. I love working at Whole Whale and excited for many more years to come. But I want to start us off with our top story, and I'd say our top story, George, are three quick stories. I'm going to pitch you this story. We've been thinking, George, we've been doing a lot of reporting on large nonprofits and what's really not a nonprofit or not. And we kind of settled on this narrative we wanted to draw out. And we wanted to make the case that I think we need to have a national conversation about what nonprofits really should be, what should be a nonprofit, especially as some of these organizations get ginormous, right? So our first story is about the NCAA, which just a couple weeks ago reached a historic settlement to pay college athletes, which is a culmination of a fight decades in the making about what colleges and leagues owe players who generate hundreds of millions of dollars for universities across the country. So this is still controversial, but the decision brings into focus the intention of an organization that remains a nonprofit but has a revenue of nearly $1 billion. So 501c3 of the IRS Revenue Code notes that fostering national, international, amateur sports competition is in fact a explicitly enumerated intention of the tax exemption. But is the NCAA really a charity? Does its intention to pay players call into question the amateur status of the charity's goals? Similarly, George, a couple months ago, actually about a year ago now, similar questions swirled about the PGA Tour in golf. The PGA Tour actually this year, 1 year ago, almost to the date, announced a merger with the Saudi PIF, Public Investment Fund's Live Golf. So you have a ginormous, another sports organization also operating as a nonprofit, now in billion-dollar deals with the Saudi Crown's Public Investment Fund. And then, George, moving over to the tech sector, we've also been having conversations about organizations like OpenAI, which began unambiguously as a nonprofit and is still a nonprofit controlled by a board of directors, but of course wholly owns a very for-profit LLC, which a recent valuation put its worth at $80 billion. Other questions are now surrounding the Linux Foundation, which brought in a revenue of $177 million, and questions about whether it's really contributing to the public good, paying salaries nearly $1 million. So, George, what do you think? Are these organizations still nonprofits? Do they follow the spirit of the nonprofit law, or do we need a new type of designation for the mega nonprofit?
The revenue generating nonprofit is tricky because you are dancing with this idea of UBIT. Did this organization earn money in the spirit, in alignment with its 501c3 charter mandate in the vector of public good? Is this serving a public good? At the beginning of all of these stories, at the beginning, yes, I see the NCAA. I was part of the NCAA. I remember all of the rules and regulations of things we couldn't do. And in the beginning, yes, it protected athletes. It did actually very great things for making sure that amateur sports stayed that way and that it wasn't polluted by money. However, I think when you're looking at something like this recent settlement, this historic settlement that happened just in May of 2024, where basically they have to distribute some $2.7 billion to athletes who competed before July 2021, when the NCAA first allowed athletes to earn money from their name. They were earning money. they being NCAA, were earning money from the likeness and images of these athletes playing probably disproportionately around the college football arena and also men's college basketball, March Madness. And I think it is, well past that period of time, right? Where you're protecting athletes versus profiting. When you cross that line toward profiting off of the community that you're trying to protect, that's time to review that. I don't think taxpayers should be giving their money, essentially, right? Because they're not taxed, right? 501c3s, not taxed. Your money as a taxpayer is essentially offsetting their ability to do that. So you crossed a line, and clearly this settlement shows that, to the tune of $2.75 billion to those athletes that competed before 2021, and create a future revenue sharing model in which schools could each distribute around $20 million per year directly to athletes that are driving this revenue. And, I think onto the next point, right? The next organization, nonprofit that is revenue generating, PGA, starting in the early 1916 period of time, collecting golfers together, being like, hey, looks like you need a tournament, looks like you need a representation. That totally makes sense. I'll chip in for that. It's a healthy sport. I play it. I'm terrible at it. Fine, golf. However, should your tax dollars be going to subsidize the Saudi investment into American influence of golf? Should your tax, is that in the spirit of the public interest? I'm having a hard time swallowing that pill in a big way. I don't think our tax dollars need to, in a 501c3 vehicle, support the Saudi Public Investment Fund Live Golf merger. I know it hasn't gone through yet, but even the fact that those words are coming out of my mouth, wow. All right. Thank you for those setups, Nick.
Of course, George. And we'll keep moving on, but we also have to give another shout out to OpenAI and the fiasco that was the attempted overthrow of the board. I think they're being actually sued by Elon Musk,
Yeah,
however,
whatever. Whoa.
Wholeheartedly or not.
All right,
but
hold on. Say low bar.
Listen. But alleging it drifted from its nonprofit mission, and I don't think that's a hard conclusion to draw. Is OpenAI still acting as a nonprofit? It's a complicated governance structure, but I don't know.
It was weird because they raised money as a nonprofit, then switched to a for-profit model, an entity there. I do respect the fact that they have made GPT-4o, their Omni model, open to the public for free, albeit it is training on everything you put in there. So, both edges of the knife. But that part is and seems to be continuing to be open. Access to those models at that free level is actually pretty impressive. I know firsthand because we actually pay the bills for our AI tools, and those tokens do add up. There is real costs associated with that, but what a giant hole in fundraising if basically you can say we'll start off as a nonprofit, prove the model, and then when we get big, when we get successful, we'll just switch over. Reminder that when you donated and you got that investment capital, those were all tax deductible donations. Like, okay, that's a little squirrely for me. But I think they're I'd say not drawing the same type of questions yet that I think PGA and, as we mentioned, NCAA are clearly going through. But it is an interesting point because I think nonprofits are a beautiful way to test public value, public interest, innovation. It's a great place to test innovation. And I think there must be a cleaner, maybe on-ramp to when you need to scale that into the for-profit world. And I do think there are ways that nonprofits can hand that over and switch over in elegant ways. Watching, for example, Patagonia go that direction into how they manage and merge into a nonprofit is just one example of this. There's certainly ways not to do it, though, too.
Yeah, George, I think that is spot on. All right, I can take us into our next story, but hold on, George, because before we do, we have to talk about Universal Analytics. You've heard it here many a times. Universal Analytics is dead. We're now in GA4 land. But what's going to be even deader is your data, which is going to be permanently deleted from those old Universal Analytics properties at the end of the month. Download your data if you want it, folks. George, anything else we need to tell folks?
I created an entire video training. I've messaged nonstop on LinkedIn. And ultimately, if this is in the back of your mind, share this podcast with somebody, share the video, forward our last newsletter. There is a free way to export that information at a sort of crawl, walk, run level, depending on what level of specificity you want to save it. But please take the time to save it. This is a do now, not later type of activity that you should be doing. If you have even a question in the back of your mind of like, hey, maybe we're interested in pre-pandemic types of traffic behavior and flows now that we're in a post-pandemic area, that data is gone if it is only living in your universal analytics site. And so I encourage you, I implore you, do take a minute. And thank you for this public service announcement, Nick.
Yep, George, couldn't have said it better. All right. I will take us into our next story, and this is a cool one, George. This is an opportunity from the Robin Hood nonprofit organization, and it's called the AI Poverty Challenge. So the Robin Hood AI Poverty Challenge is now open for applications, offering up to $1 million each to 3 awardees and up to $100,000 each to 9 finalists. Nonprofit and for-profit entities in the U.S. are eligible with the focus on projects addressing poverty issues in New York City. So lead organizations must manage any awards and collaborate with various partners to develop innovative solutions. And interested orgs should register soon because the deadline is approaching. So, George, if you're at a nonprofit, you work at tech and social impact in any way, and you're working on anything AI, poverty, or kind of like social welfare, social impact type work, give this a look. I think it's really innovative. It's really cool coming from the Robin Hood Foundation, very, very well-respected organization within the anti-poverty space. By the way, their former CEO is now the governor of Maryland, Wes Moore, and really cool to see this kind of opportunity.
It's excellent. It's great leadership. Put your money where it needs to be and help innovation along, help AI get to communities that need it the most in a responsible way. I think this is exactly how you do it. You put out this call, you put the money where it needs to be. And frankly, this type of innovation is uniquely different. It's uniquely different because it's not just the technical costs of building, but the costs, I will say, of paying for those tokens. Like I said, with CauseWriter AI, we're generating over 1 million words a month, and that costs money, right? This is the most expensive API I have ever built on. Like that, it doesn't come cheap once you get something that scales. So yes, foundations taking the lead on saying, hey, we're going to underwrite those types of costs because this technology is too important. It is too powerful for us not to be participating as a sector. Bravo, bravo to the Robin Hood Foundation on this initiative. Go check it out, aipovertychallenge.org.
So, George, our next story is the closure of the National Foundation for Transplant, leaving patients without critical funds and organs. So, the National Foundation for Transplants in Memphis, after 41 years, announced that they are closing, leaving many organ transplant patients without the funds they raised for their procedures and post-transplant care. So despite raising over 82 million and helping around 4,000 recipients annually, the foundation cited inflated medical costs, higher operating expenses, and reduced fundraising as a reason for its closure. And the unrestricted nature of the donations mean that the funds, even in those intended for specific individuals, will be retained by the foundation. George, this is a complicated one. What's going on here?
This is first and foremost really sad to see, and you realize the critical role that nonprofits play, especially in organ transplant and organ transplants in our country. Roughly a little over half of eligible folks in the country, call it around 55%, have actually been registered as organ donors. And then there is an entire component of how you connect people with those organs and talking with families, making sure organs end up where they need to be. And so this is really sad to see. I can't speak to whether or not funds should be returned, what those promises were, but clearly with these news articles that we see coming out about it, it is not without impact. Locally, lives being certainly impacted by this. It's sad. And maybe the larger look is at what are those medical costs as they go up and what are the policies at a higher level that put this organization out of play, but very sad to see.
Yeah, Really sad to see. We've done a lot of work here at Whole Whale with the organ procurement folks, people who provide
Donate Life
life-saving
America.
support to
I will say
folks.
Donate Life America as a reliable network of folks we have worked with in the past, still going strong out there, doing incredible work, which is why we've got to see firsthand why this work matters so much. But, we're big fans of Donate Life America for sure.
Absolutely. All right, George, I think we need a feel-good story.
Yeah, what do we got?
This one comes from Denver 7 Colorado News, and it's a nonprofit planting vegetable gardens at homes in Denver food deserts. So the Grow House nonprofit, a little bit of German in there, is tackling in food insecurity in Denver in a big way by planting vegetable gardens in food desert neighborhoods like Globeville and Elyria, Swansea. This initiative not only provides fresh produce, but also empowers families to grow their own food, addressing rising food insecurity, kind of highlighted by Colorado's own Health Institute. These areas have no grocery stores, and Grow House's efforts are actually vital for residents like Florentina Vasquez, who now has a garden to feed her family. George, I think this is a huge issue, and one that doesn't really get talked about a lot enough. Even in New York City, a place as dense as New York City, certain low-income communities in the city are just plain not served by supermarkets. Folks have to travel on the subway for up to an hour to get food at reasonable prices, and the ones that do exist jack up their prices because they're the only ones in the neighborhood. So food access, both in the rural, as in the Denver case, but also even in the highly dense urban, is a major kind of justice issue as it comes to food equity.
Yeah, I love it also as an educational component for especially children, seeing where food comes from. I am a big fan of gardens and teaching young people that food doesn't come from grocery stores, it comes from the ground, and it is a fun project to see. All right, Nick, I've got a question for you. Why is it getting hotter at the NCAA?
I don't know, George.
It's because they're running out of fans.
Oh, I see. Keep that going. They got Caitlin Clark's now in the WNBA. She's a pro now, so got to get those fans in there.
Keeps things cool. If you are a fan of nonprofit and dad jokes combined, like I am, we actually have a GPT for that at causewriter.ai/resources. Yes, I literally took the time to create a dad joke meets nonprofit joke maker. You're welcome, internet. All right, Nick. See you next time.
Thanks, George.